Big, exciting, great news this morning as renewed hopes for a second stimulus deal to be done in 2 days are ignited. Wall Street this morning is trading higher on optimism that a second stimulus package could be reached by tomorrow, amid threats from Nancy Pelosi to get it done or else by Tuesday evening. Ironically, I'm really quite surprised. I wonder what Wall Street would have done if Pelosi had put out a threat that everyone should get a new hairstyle by the end of tomorrow. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm here, you're here. The toast is toast and the butter is buttering. It's really dark, and the bacon is on the grill. But apparently there's a deadline. I don't know if anyone's paying attention to it. But the deadline is also for the sun not rising because it is dark. So I really appreciate you for joining me on a great Monday morning of Mornings LALATE. I'm so honored to have you here. And thank you for joining me for Early Mornings LALATE, which was already a big hit this morning. Go to the front of this channel and subscribe because we're approaching 300,000 subscribers and there's no one like this community. You're absolutely incredible. Also, like this video. I have a lot of breaking news this morning and news even since early mornings this morning at 3 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll be going over what's happening with Mitch today and tomorrow and Wednesday. Then I'll be going over President Trump's reaction overnight. Third, I'll be going over what Nancy said to cause Wall Street to be very excited. Wall Street's not always right, but, maybe this time they are. And finally, I will go over Wall Street's reaction this morning and why they think something's going to change tomorrow. And it's not someone's hairstyle. All right, let's get to the breaking news. I want to start with Wall Street's reaction because it is really quite interesting. Much of Wall Street has viewed the situation sort of like you and I, with a pessimistic or guarded review. But this morning they think something may happen. Interesting. One benchmark, Treasury yields, which is a benchmark of how the markets are reviewing the situation. The 10-year Treasury note up 4 basis points to 0.78 this morning on renewed hopes that a second stimulus deal would be reached. Ian Lingen says the overnight weakness of the Treasury further offers confirmation of a fiscal stimulus deal in the coming days. Wow. Okay. Jerome Powell will be speaking by the time of this recording at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that apparently is exciting a lot of people. Moreover, Sharif Hamid, a strategist at Jefferies overnight, said that he thinks that perhaps a stimulus deal could be reached. The U.S. elections at hand, fiscal stimulus will remain a key near-term potential catalyst. Wow. What is a catalyst is #MSC. Hazard pay, and renewed optimism to bring FPUC further back. If you did not join us over the weekend, and boy, it was a great weekend. I hope you had a good time. I did here too. I loved all the community and the reaction from everyone on this channel. So much love. On Friday, I started the campaign for MSC, and that has been heard loud and clear. Also, the renewed optimism for hazard pay, and finally, bringing FPUC back further. What's going on here? Well, first of all, there's now new focus that the stimulus packages that are being done this winter are either done as one that is much bigger, or two that are done consecutively, or three that there's several done in a whole spool of wax. But the real tension is that you need multiple stimulus checks. It's been too long, and that one stimulus check is not going to cut it. If you don't know where we are today, we're in October, and it's been 6 months since you potentially got a last stimulus check. I'm sorry, that doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it. In fact, you were promised multiple stimulus checks, and they were taken out of the first stimulus package so that you were left with one stimulus check at most. And if you're an adult dependent, which means you're over a certain age and you appear as a dependent on someone else's tax return, generally in the case of SSDI, SSI, and Social Security Railroad benefit viewers, you didn't get a first stimulus check. And guess what's happening this fall? Nancy Pelosi wants to give those people that have waited around for no check since March a watered-down $500 stimulus check. These are for my veterans who served this country for many years and didn't receive a first stimulus check because they're a dependent, and this time she doesn't even want to give them a full stimulus check. How about children? Children going hungry? No. Yeah. She wants to give them only $500. Now, Steve Mnuchin, on the other hand, has raised his number, and that's really great news. But his number is not high enough. The reason why is it's one stimulus check. Steve Mnuchin's at a $1,200 stimulus check currently for all adults. This is categorically incredible. All adults. And then children at $1,000. This is the highest offer ever made by the Republicans. But it's not enough. And we should know it's not enough because we were told this in May. At the time, Senator Harris and Senator Sanders and Senator Markey. Harris, the VP nominee for the Biden-Harris ticket. Sanders, that's Bernie Sanders out of the East Coast, all said that $1,200 ain't gonna cut it. In fact, to this day, no one really knows where this $1,200 number came from. It just sort of miraculously appeared and has been the default to number ever since. Harris said $1,200 doesn't cut it for 1 month. It needs to be $2,000. And she said that we can't do one stimulus check. We need to do a stimulus check every month, and it has to be $2,000. And she said it has to go on every month, at least for 6 months, or until unemployment decreases or the pandemic goes away. Well, guess where we are today? We're 6 months since then. 6 times 2 is $12,000. The pandemic has not gone away, and unemployment has not improved. And guess what? If you look 6 months into the future, where are we then? We're at March, which is likely when any type of stimulus package from a new presidential administration potentially would land in your hand. And at that point, we're a year from the last stimulus package. Do you think one $1,200 stimulus check is going to cut it? No. Hence, hashtag MSC, multiple stimulus checks. You have been all over social media. You've been tagging the president, tagging Mnuchin, tagging all the president's campaign managers. And this is a big one, you tuned into 28 yesterday in record numbers and understood how these MSCs are so critical for Trump. The current numbers across the country, the poll numbers, and we all know poll numbers are often wrong, but even considering they're wrong, he's still not doing well in swing states. He's behind in all but 2 swing states. In those 2 swing states, he's up a point. And ultimately, if he did the stimulus package now, the stimulus checks now by executive order, sent them out, he would have ostensibly a dead race. How does this work? It's important to understand that the impact of receiving a stimulus check in your hand before you vote is gone. It's gone because 1, too many people are voting by mail. 2, there's potentially not enough time to get it in your physical hand before you go to the voting booth. But the benefit, the political benefit, the amount of points in the polls he could jump up if he tells the American people, I just signed an executive order today, the check is coming in your hand and you'll have it in the first week of November, would make the difference of this entire election. It's that critical. How much money does it have, and how much could he send out for stimulus checks? Well, he has $800 billion. He has $800 billion that he can repurpose for the purpose of stimulus checks. He's done this before. He did this in the case of FEMA with LWA, where FEMA, which has disaster relief money for tornadoes and hurricanes, had its money repurposed for what else? Unemployment. Totally different. He can do this for stimulus checks. The money is not in Treasury, it's outside of Treasury. And so how much can $800 billion cover you for? It can cover you for $4,000 in stimulus checks, 2 stimulus checks, and then leave a little bit left over for FPUC to be extended. Oh, baby, this is getting good. So with that, when you look at how much stimulus checks cost, it costs about $300 billion for a $2,000 round of stimulus checks. There's $800 billion sitting around approximately. So that brings you to about 2 stimulus checks. It can get done. It could land in your bank account. It could change the face of the entire election. It could give the president a win. It could give what 28 delivered yesterday as the October surprise, and it could change the face of this entire election. Ultimately, I'm not here to determine who wins or who does not win the election. What I'm here to determine is how you get your stimulus money. Next, Trump overnight spoke about where he is mentally on the situation. And he says, I want to give Americans a lot of money, but Nancy Pelosi's the fault. When asked about it, he says, I want the money by tonight. But Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it because she thinks it's good politically for her not to approve it. She wants to bail out poorly run Democratic states, and we don't want to do that. I don't think she wants to approve it anyway. And I think this is him still talking, the president, and I think even if we gave her the money for the poorly run states, I don't think she'd approve it anyway. If I had, then he was asked, does he have GOP support? Which gets me to the next point of this broadcast, Mitch. He says, absolutely. If I had something that would be good from Nancy Pelosi, I think I could quickly convince the Republicans to do it. They're ready to do it, but Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to do it. I mean, I wish your governor would call up Nancy Pelosi and say, do it. She wants to hold on to it after the election. And I think it's very bad for the Democrats, but I'm willing and able. If they sent over a bill, I am ready, willing, and able, and I want a higher number what Nancy Pelosi wants. He then says that he could have a deal from the Republicans within 2 minutes. His exact words were 2 minutes. Next, Mitch. It's important to understand where Mitch is in this equation. If you missed yesterday's McConnell versus Trump broadcast, she saw some great stuff. Basically, what Mitch is doing is a full court press of publicity against Pelosi. What he's trying to say is not that I don't support the president, not that I'm working against the president, rather that Nancy Pelosi is the blame of the situation. You're going to see a lot of hot air from Mitch and Nancy between today and Wednesday. Mitch on Tuesday will introduce a standalone bill. That's the one that I'm very concerned about because I really don't understand what he's talking about. The second one is a Wednesday bill, and that's the $500 billion bill. A, neither is going to pass and become a law. B, neither is supposed to do any purpose but a lot of publicity. C, the announcements that he's doing for these events, these bills, are a pushback on Nancy Pelosi. In fact, his press release to talk about these bills on Saturday evening mentioned Nancy Pelosi in every paragraph, referring to her as Marie Antoinette. Nancy Pelosi is doing the same thing, and that's what happened overnight. Overnight, Nancy Pelosi issued a new statement, and that new statement said, hey, give me a deal within 48 hours or else. Her statement ended with an item of optimism. Now, ultimately, you can be the naysayer, as we often are, and say, well, you've said optimism before. Steve Mnuchin, Nancy Pelosi, Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, everyone is, Mark Meadows, everyone has always given us a promise that something's going to be done tomorrow or the day after or a week later, and none of those promises have ever come to fruition. They're very good on promising us great events that never happen, but this is Nancy Pelosi's promise overnight. I'm optimistic that we can reach an agreement before the election. To that end, we are writing language as we negotiate the priorities so that they're fully prepared to move forward once we reach an agreement. Updates will be going to our chairs to continue. Thank you for your leadership. Stay safe. What agreement? What agreement? This is a person who's historically, when faced with an October 1st deadline for the airlines who were told, Nancy, we need help. She said, don't worry, the deal is imminent. She said that on Thursday. Then on a Saturday, she said the deal's imminent. Then on Monday, she said, don't fire the people. I have a deal for you right away. Well, this is about 16 days since then. So there you go. Really quite interesting twists and turns. But what you need to understand in the new day is that really when we're focusing on where these things are going, there's going to be a lot of distractions. And I did that on Purple Power last night. There's going to be distractions across the board. The biggest distraction this morning, which is a good distraction, not a bad one, is Jerome Powell. He's going to be speaking at the time of this recording. And at the time of this recording, he's likely going to say what he said before. You need a lot of stimulus. You don't need a little bit of stimulus. And that doing a lot of stimulus helps this economy rebound faster. And that a little bit of stimulus causes this economy to go very slow for a very long time. Ultimately, what's important to understand is that Nancy Pelosi's bill does not have a lot of stimulus in it. It does not have a lot of stimulus in it. Mitch McConnell overnight says it has no PPP. You and I know it has one measly stimulus check. How is that stimulating if it's a 6-month-old check that was owed to you back in April and it's coming in November? It has It has FPUC retroactive to September, and you're supposed to not have your retroactive benefits to August, so you're not supposed to have 4 weeks of benefits in August. It doesn't have hazard pay if you worked as a frontline worker. Everything that you need for purposes of stimulus has been removed by Nancy Pelosi or not added in or eroded over time. And that everything that keeps on being added in there or protected in there is not stimulus. It's bailouts for states and local governments. It's big salary raises for the federal officials. And ultimately, the message is getting out clear that this is not a correct bill. And that this is not a bill that's going to carry anyone past December, let alone past this month. It won't be stimulus. It may look good, but it won't be enough. And so you need, as the Purple Power, to keep the pressure up this morning. I expect a lot of breaking news throughout the day, so please stay with me as new developments unfold throughout the day. But let me get to some of the incredible 1,400 comments overnight. Gerardo Vera, we need to still vote them out. Amen. Seats for stimulus. Lee Scherer, we need water right now. Michael Ucci, Negative Nancy, Moscow Mitch, Silverstone, Steve Mnuchin, and Larry Kudlow, recipes for nothing happening. Amen. And they really don't work a lot. 1 hour a day? I mean, what is 1 hour a day? Robert Smith, I wish the president would do executive orders today by Sunday with the bigger and better, he said, like by Tuesday. I'll be living on the streets of Chicago. Unemployment has cut me off. I have an overpayment of $8,000 and I have to pay back. Why? I'm trying to hold them off. It's so sad. I'm trying to stay warm in this cold weather, and it's going to snow soon. The government does not care about the people and live in the cold weather where they're going to live, and the shelters are overcrowded, turning people away. Come on, Mr. President, do what you say. Stick with the executive orders. Please, I beg of you. All I want is to live and survive in life. Robert Smith, 21 hours ago. Absolutely devastating. Pablo Haciendo, Nancy sounds so crazy. Kevin Osorio, they're rich, they never would understand, referring to Congress. Deborah Massey, do they realize they've lost their political careers? I don't know. David Luba, since China is paying for the forward, MSC shouldn't be a problem. Cheryl, Nancy doesn't care about the American people. Linda, everyone needs to go to Nancy Pelosi's house and start protesting. Charlotte, Nancy took the check out in March, and now she needs to put it back in and get fired. Amen. Wanda, Nancy just plain heartless. Francisco, they're not doing anything. Annette, I'm so tired of waiting for it to go bigger, and yet the checks keep on getting smaller. That's Nancy Pelosi. She keeps on removing stuff. Go bigger, go bolder. Bigger stimulus packages. Overnight, the president says, Nancy Pelosi's bill is not sufficient, needs to go bigger. And I agree. And Senator Harris, if you pull those interviews from March, she made it very clear that if you don't start giving more stimulus, you're going to have big problems. But she hasn't dealt with the Purple Power. Go to the Funniest Channel, subscribe, because we are pushing through this together. We're laser focused. We understand where we're going to go. This morning, take this video and tag your politicians. Say multiple stimulus checks. We're not cutting it with this one stimulus check. Put hazard pay back in there. Put FPUC retroactive. Also, make sure you get your message out professionally and respectfully, and also make it clear to those elected officials who did nothing for you. Seats for stimulus, you're voting them out. Also, like this video. Coming up next is 28. As always, hopefully we'll have better lighting by then. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay in LA for more.